Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple, the show where we talk about all things board game related. Today we have a review of Okanagan from Matagot. This is going to be an Essen release. I think it's going to be coming out here in the States really shortly thereafter. This is an interesting tile placement game, straight up.
Yeah, it's got some similarities to, of course, it's Big Daddy, Carcassonne. I think every tile placement game does. But this takes place in where? Is this Canada or is it Seattle?
I think
it's in
the Pacific Northwest for sure.
Hopefully we got the pronunciation right. But anyway, so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be placing settlements onto these tiles when you place them into the game. Each of these settlements offer a variety of different tiles that you'll be collecting in order to get a sort of set collection, depending upon the objectives that you kind of draft at the start of the game. Each player is going to start with 5 objective cards, but they're only going to pick 3 of them. So they have some variety. They're going to look in their hand, see which their starting tile is, and try to collect specific types of tiles. There's 4 basic colored tiles, and each of those colored tiles have 3 different shapes within them. So if you're looking at the blue shape, you have 3 different types within that specific category. And each of these objective cards tells you what you're trying to collect. For instance, this one here are the round gray ones, which are rocks, and I get 3 victory points for every single one I collect at the end of the game. Now, these are hidden, so no one knows what your objectives are through the course of the game.
Not yet, anyway.
Exactly. So each player is going to start with 5 of those. They're going to draft 3 of those. They're also going to start with a X number of settlements, and these settlements come in silos, warehouses, and farms. And the number that you start with is dependent upon the number of players in the game.
Yeah, you're going to work through all of the pieces that come with the game, but depending on player count, like Jeremy said, you're going to take a few, and then the rest are going to go on to this card here, reserved for sort of the second era or the second stage of the game.
Right. You have a number of different tiles. Each of these tiles have 3 different types of, or 4 different basic areas within the game. You have forest, you have pastures or land, you have mountains, and you have like lakes.
Yep.
All these represent the 4 types of tiles that you're trying to collect through the course of the game. Now, the cool thing is that each of these tiles is double-sided. So when you are looking to draft one of these, they also have a special ability on the back side.
Right. The special abilities will come into play sort of when you're reconciling the scoring phase of the game. But on the front side, everyone's going to start with one of these tiles, and then you're going to see, like Jeremy said, the different areas have these different resources on them, but not necessarily all of those resources.
Right.
So I'm looking here at a water piece that has one of the fish, but it doesn't have the fisherman or the other type of the fish.
Yep.
This all comes into play as you're trying to build out this area communally. Everyone's placing tiles on this thing. When you place a tile and it closes off a space, that's when these tokens are really going to come into play. So let's talk about basically how the game flows.
Sure. So each player, as David said, will start with a random tile. On their turn, you have to place the tile that you have, unless you can't place it. In that case, you're going to draw up a new tile to place. When you look at the board, now the board, we've already gone like halfway through the first round of the game, but this is the starting tile. It's got all the 4 basic types around it. On your turn, if this was the only available one, you have to connect onto a previously placed area. You're going to look at your tile and decide where you wish to place it. And again, you have to make sense of the tile. If it hits one edge correctly but hits a different edge incorrectly, you can't place that tile. When you place the tile, you simply butt it up against it. And then you have to place one of your settlements that you have available. At the start of the game, we're going to start with the 3 types of settlements. Each of the settlements provide an X number of point value to that tile or to that region that you're trying to build. Silos provide 1 point. Warehouses provide 2 points. And farms provide 3 points.
Right, and these are basically influence points for when that area closes.
It's completed, yeah.
When it's completed, then you basically add up all the influence. Whoever has the most is going to benefit greater.
So when you add that tile, you have to place one of your settlements. That's how the game progresses. When you place that settlement, if it is a silo, it places dead center of that tile. The great thing about it is that it connects to all the different types of structures that are in that area, all of them around them. However, it only provides 1 point when it's completed. Your warehouses, they go on the side bordering 2 different areas.
Exactly.
But they're worth 2 points. And then farms, finally.
Yeah, the farms are 3 points, but you put those within one area. And again, it's important to note, these are placed on the tile that you just placed. You can't just place these things willy-nilly. So you're placing your tile, you're placing these settlements on that tile. And then as the game progresses, so basically you check for one major thing after you've placed a tile, and that's whether or not you've completed an area. And in some cases, you might place a tile and complete multiple areas. So when you complete an area, for instance, this lake right here had been completed at one point. You're going to look and see who has a settlement attached to that lake in some way, shape, or form. It could be in the lake, like with a farm. It could be silo. It could be a warehouse. Whoever has the most influence on that lake is going to be able to take more of these tokens. And you can see here, there's a number of tokens. The bigger the space is when it's completed, the more tokens or resources it's going to provide towards these objective cards.
Yeah, so when you look at this area, for instance, if we look at this lake that David alluded to, we have gray in here, we have white in here, and we also have red. Now you look at the total value, as you said, you have 2, 2, and 1. That's 5 influence in that area. White has 2 influence, and red, unfortunately, has 1 influence. You're going to get all these tokens. You're simply going to count them up and pull them off to the side of the table. The player has the most gets to pick their 5, or pick the number of influence first before anyone else. Whatever's less goes to the second player and then the third player. And there's a possibility there's no tiles left for that player to be able to pick from.
Right. Now, one sort of fringe benefit from for being last, though, is before anyone takes any of those tokens, the person with the fewest amount of influence is going to be able to go over here to these stacks. We'd mentioned these tiles being double-sided earlier. The last place is going to be able to pick one of these and activate the power that is on one of the face-up tiles. You simply use that, use the power, and place it on the bottom of that stack. Now, what's interesting here is sometimes you should glance over at these stacks because you might want to lose the influence battle for an area because there might be a really juicy tile over here. This one, for instance, I get to take 2 round fish tiles. There's 2 round fish in this lake, but that's an easy way to grab those fish. You might still be able to get those fish from this lake too. So it's a really interesting dynamic to potentially want to lose the influence battle.
And remember, why you're trying to collect these tokens is to complete the objectives that you have. Each of these objectives give you a different number of points. They typically have X number of fish, X number of coal, or a combination of 2 different types of resources to gain more points. These tiles on the backside, as David said, there's ones that give you benefits, there's ones that give you any type of hexagonal or round tile, there's ones that even allow you to clear out objectives that you don't think you're going to complete to get the opportunity to draw more cards to get different objectives. And then you'll see over here, you have the gold nuggets. Every time you get a gold nugget, you're simply going to take one of the gold nugget cards here and place it in front of you. The person with the most gold nuggets at the end of the game gets 10 points, 5 points, 2 points, and 0 points for last place. So that's another reason to become last place. Now, one of the cool things too is if there is a tie in influence, say you complete a region and both players or multiple players have the same amount, the person that completed it has the option of deciding who's first, who's last. So they may wish to go last and get a special ability and allow the person that tied with them to go first. So it's really up to the person that completes that specific area.
Now, in many cases, too, you may complete a small little area and be the only person there. And you might be thinking, fantastic, I get all the stuff from the region and I get to do the power. That's not the case. You can choose either or, though. You can choose to take the power or to take the resources from the area.
The last thing you're going to do on your turn is you have to pick one of the 3 available face-up tiles. You simply take that tile, place it in front of you, and replace it with one that comes from the corresponding stack.
You're going to be doing this until everyone has placed all of their settlements out, and then everyone gets the rest of their settlements for basically phase 2, which is all of the same, but everything out on the board stays as is.
One of the great things I like about phase 2 is that each player is also going to draw 2 more objective cards. And then they're going to add that to their 3, and then they're going to go back down to 3. So there's things that they can't complete. They're going to get a new set of them, and they can decide what they think they can complete and what they don't think they can complete and kind of refresh and restart from that point.
That can be a huge pivotal moment in the game because you may have your objective cards and you may be doing really well on 1 and horrible on 2, and then you draw a couple more and you already have the resources for a couple of those. So you can get a really big swing right there in the mid game.
So the game will actually end when all the settlements have been placed. That will end at the end of the second round, and then you're going to score up your points. Again, the gold nuggets will be scored first, The player with the most of those is going to score 10 points, 5, 2, and then 0. You're going to score points for all the 3 objectives that you have and whether or not you completed them or how many points you get from them. One of the cool things about this game is that each of the different cards, if they have overlying different types of tiles, they will count for both. So if I have something that requires like the apples on one, but it also requires apples and farmers on the other one, I get points for both of them.
Yeah, not only that, but even on a single objective card, if we didn't mention this already, you can score it multiple times.
Yep.
So if you get 7 points for a farmer and an apple, if you have 4 farmers and 4 apples, it's 28 points.
Yeah, yep. And then the last thing you're going to score points for is sets. Now there's a card down here that we didn't mention. It's going to show you 4 points for a set of each of the 4 different types of tiles. It doesn't matter what their shape are or who they are. As long as you have 4 and you have multiples of 4, you can score 4, 8, 12, 16 points, and so forth. Tally up the points, person with the most wins.
Yeah, that's basically it. This is a very straightforward tile placement game, like we said. I'd say it's probably north of the original Carcassonne, but maybe on par with some of the different Carcassones that have come out over the years in terms of complexity.
Yeah. What would you say about the number of players? Like, I believe that this game probably shines better with multiple players because of the variety and the expanse of the map changing. When you're playing with 2 players, you can pretty much control your own destiny in the game.
Yeah.
And 4 players, which is also kind of the bane of the game, by the time it comes back around to you, some of the spots that you've tried to capture or build up or have plans for are already taken over by other players.
Yeah, you have to be careful, and this brings up sort of a related con, if you will, maybe, is even though those objective cards are hidden, you can very quickly determine what everyone else is going after because they'll have a bunch of those tokens in front of them.
Yep.
So, like Jeremy was saying, if he and I are both going after wood, lumber, or fish, let's say, I might start a water area thinking, okay, I'm going to go around and complete that. But then it's been completed by the time I'm done. I don't have as much influence as I'd like there. So it can be a little frustrating. It's more of a tactical game, I guess, than a strategic game, especially with 4 players. Yeah. With that said, I do think it's better at 3, probably even 4 players with a game like this, which is not usually how I feel. But I think with 2 players, there's just too much. I can be mostly off doing my own thing. You can be doing your own thing. We never really butted heads in terms of finishing areas or battling over them.
One of the other problems I have with the game is that a lot of the special abilities, some of them are just flat out better than others within the game.
I would agree.
Some of them will allow you to kind of manipulate the stack, which if it's not being done on your turn, it doesn't really affect you, especially in a 4-player game. If you turn over one that gives you a refresh of these 3, by the time it comes back around to you, those 3 are going to be gone anyway. And the other problem I have with the game is that you only have 1 tile. You're basically drawing 1 tile, and that's the tile you have to place. There's no variety, there's no decisions. It's simply finding that tile and finding the best place for it and trying to get points off of that specific tile that you have.
I would agree with that for sure. Having 1 tile feels a little bit limiting. I think some people might think that they like that from the puzzle standpoint because you're stuck with the 1 tile that you have to deal with. But having 2 would give you some options. It would allow you to better kind of direct where you want to go. Like I said, I think this game is tactics above everything.
Yeah.
You're dealing with whatever your current situation is. Even with these action tiles, something might come up that looks really attractive to you, like +2 fish. If you have an objective that keys off of that, or maybe 2, you definitely want to use your turn to try to lose an influence battle so you can grab that and get those fish. But overall, I actually enjoyed the experience of playing it.
Yeah.
This is a very satisfying game, like turn to turn. It was very satisfying, all the turns. But overall, it felt probably on par. It didn't feel like it was doing a ton more than some of the more advanced Carcassones.
Yeah, it's a great family game, great introduction game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of special tiles. I think there's like 14 different types of tiles when you count them all together, so there's a lot of variety in that. And it's great to introduce new people. If you want a tile placing game and a set collection game that's kind of mixed into one and plays very quickly, I mean, you get done with this game in like 45 minutes, in and out. Very easy to set up and break down as well. So
Yeah.
Okanagan, Valley of the Lakes. We forgot to mention that. It is coming out in a couple weeks, I think, here
right
in
after
the
us.
US. If you guys have questions about the game, make them in the comments below. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, whatever else we do. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Season 2 of Man vs. Meeple is sponsored in part by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff, in stock, at coolstuffinc.com.